Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining our M4P series, Turning Managers into Coaches. This one is called Get the Most Out of Your Performance Reviews. This is our last part of our 4-part series on turning managers into coaches. Don't worry if you've missed those and you're saying, where was I for all these other ones? You can catch up. Just drop a message in chat and we'll make sure we get you those recordings after we're done here today. Also, this is an interactive session today. We really encourage comments and questions in the chat. Please interrupt us as often as you can when questions pop into your head. You don't have to wait until the very end of what we're doing here today. We want to make sure that we're answering these things as we're talking, make sure that this is an organic conversation rather than a presentation for you today. So please drop it in the chat. Just by way of introductions, my name is Mike Kinsey. I'm the VP of Talent Optimization here for M4P. I'm joined by my friends and colleagues, Edgar Jones, VP of Coaching, and another Vice President here on our team is Ben Murphy. And you're in for a real treat today. We've got experience and expertise in a lot of different areas. And obviously today, the main focus is making sure that we look at how to turn managers into coaches. When we looked at M4P and why we were created, our ultimate mission here is to turn managers into coaches and turn teammates into top performers. It's super important for us because we know that there's a very definitive difference between managing somebody and leading somebody. And ultimately, I think a lot of organizations have a hard time differentiating people that are just kind of making it and ones that are truly elite top performers within their roles and bringing definition around that. So looking at today's topic of getting the most out of your performance reviews, this is a hot topic right now. And internally here, we call them quarterly conversations. And a lot of people like to call these conversations because it's a lot less maybe intimidating than the historic performance reviews, the dreaded performance reviews that happen maybe annually or not at all. And so when we look at, these performance reviews, I would pass this first over to Ben. Ben, when we look at this, how do more companies kind of struggle with performance reviews and why are they so important within organizations to actually do?
Absolutely. And let's start with why they're so important. And I want you to think about it from the employee's perspective. We meet with a lot of organizations right now that are having retention issues, and let's dig into how you can have a game plan to directly impact the 3 main causes that are causing retention, right? So people leave because they're not connected to their manager, okay? People leave the organization or get disengaged because they are not aligned in the right role, and they leave because they don't see how they're connecting their relationship with that organization with the rapid and fast growth that they want to see in their career. Okay. And so why do you need to have managers turned into coaches? And why do you need to have these touch points, these reviews, these quarterly conversations? Because they directly impact all 3 of those things if done right. Okay. We need to train and develop managers that they have a game plan on how to coach their people and they know what to talk about. And so we believe in focusing those quarterly conversations around things of performance, but also those development pieces of skills, values, and behaviors that will bring the most out of that person because they're connecting on the strategic conversation that truly is a conversation, not just a tell them something. But then they're also applying that to their current role and how that lines up, but always focusing on developing that person for the future. And so we believe that if you can master the rhythm of how you're going to have these coaching conversations with your people, you'll change those 3 dynamics in a faster way within your organization. Better connection with managers, better alignment for people in the right roles, better sense of people and how they're connected to your business for their own personal development. And so that's why it's important. We want your people to feel that. And if they feel that, you're going to get better performance, you're going to get better retention. And that's a huge thing that every organization is looking to do.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And, now that we know the why behind the coaching conversations, tell us a little bit more about how exactly we can practice that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, why we designed M4P to create a opportunity for organizations to put managers into a system to elevate their ability to become a coach by practicing these good habits. And so those good habits consist of having check-ins with your people, having these more formal coaching conversations with people, but talk to people about the things that are truly pertinent, so they're not check the box items. How are we doing together in developing performance towards these initiatives? And what are the things around skills, values, and behaviors that are going to optimize our ability to win? I coached college football for 10 years, right? Every person in every company is playing a game, right? They're trying to win that game. These coaching conversations are timeouts on the field. There's sideline conversations when you're not on the field, and you're always talking about the things that matter, that are going to help everybody win together. And you just need to put that into a way that managers and coaches can do that systematically within your business to create that same type of culture that you have within those awesome sports organizations.
Yeah, it's really good, Ben. And I'm curious to hear from Edgar on this one. Obviously, been a coach for a very long time. How have you personally practiced taking the position of a coach within your organization?
That's a great question. Mike and Ben did a great job hitting on some really good points. First, preparation is extremely important. And we talk about a game plan. So I have to make sure I'm preparing myself and making sure my preparation is really good, because these conversations are important. And when you enter this conversation, you want to make sure you're tuned in with the employee. So to me, with the preparation side, this is the benefit of M4P, because it really gives you a chance and it shows you the narrative of what's taking place, the conversations that's taking place, the last check-in you had with them, and currently how they are performing in real time. And the other good thing about that is M4P also shows you and gives you a chance on how to coach the individual with the predictive index. Great coaches understand that you can't coach all people the same. We're all wired different. You want to treat people on how they want to be treated. So preparation, preparation, preparation. And I'll say this, the more work that you do on the front end with these conversations, maybe it's you doing this over the course of a couple months or a couple weeks, it helps with the anxiety as you get ready to get to this review, because you've been doing this on a frequent basis. It helps for you, and it really helps with the employee as well. So as we get into the question asking, great coaches, they ask good questions, and coaches guide their players with questions to get them to think for themselves, to think different, and to actually take action. And some of these questions that we're asking, they really should be predicated off of how their performance is. So maybe I have someone that may not be performing well over the past couple of weeks. Well, maybe the question should be is, hey, are you facing any challenges? I've noticed your performance has taken a slump in the past couple of weeks. Are you facing any challenges, or is there anything I can do to support you and give you the support that you need? With those questions, first, it lets them know that you're thinking, you want them to start to think about solutions. And you also want to let them know that you're thinking about them as well. You want to give them the support that they need, because this is extremely, extremely important. And you want to have your employee to think about working through situations and getting through that situation, that you're not the one that's having to always figure out a solution for them. You want them to start thinking about, how can I work through this? And as you're asking these questions, I think it's extremely important to be fully present, to really put the phone away, put the distractions away, give them your undivided attention. And maybe before you go into this review with them, it's probably not best for you to leave a Zoom call or a Teams call and go straight into a review. Like, because maybe you heard some information in that Zoom call that got you irritated. So you don't want to go into that review with that emotion. So actually taking time out to think about, what you want to say, and giving that individual your full undivided attention. And as you listen to the questions that you've asked them and the answers that they've given you, now we can kind of start working towards those goal settings. And as a coach, you want to get the most out of review. So you want to make sure you're setting goals that you both can agree on, that we can work together and we both can agree on these goals. Because if I don't do that, then they can potentially leave out of that meeting with not a lot of clarity. And maybe I've set an unrealistic goal on them and it wasn't fair to them. So now I put them in a position where it's very difficult for them to be successful. And the last one is holding each other accountable. You want to hold them accountable. More importantly, I want to make sure that I'm holding myself accountable because in my position, I can get busy with the things that I have to do. So holding myself accountable with checking in with that individual on a more frequent basis before we get to these reviews. And as I'm doing that, I'm holding them accountable to the things that we both agreed on. And this is extremely important because we have to remember that eventually at some point in time, they're going to hit a setback or something's going to happen. So if I'm having those conversations with them, checking in with them on a more frequent basis, we can kind of get in the way of this big snowball that may potentially come downhill because I've been checking in with them and I've been holding myself accountable and I've been holding them accountable. So Ben, what's some other crucial talking points during this review that we should focus on?
Sure. And I see there's a Q&A question about kind of frequency of these. I believe your organization has to set how much you think your team can execute this, and it's a journey. We actually do a weekly kind of 10 to 15 minute check-in, and then we do a quarterly conversation where it's going to be like 30 to 50 minutes with that individual where we get more in depth. And so I just keep that in mind that not every organization, industry, work style, work speed is important. But the things we're talking about today, this can really maximize anyone that's done or considering remote workforce long-term. You can really dial in performance and engagement of your people if you have a systematic way for having your managers and your employees connect on a holistic way. So I want to throw that out there. Now, why is it so important on the connection piece and how you get that connection? There's a couple of things that really go into this. I see this stat out there. Only 14.5% of managers are equipped on what to talk about and how to say it. That's a really low number, right? You have all these people that have been promoted to being a manager and they don't know what to talk about or how to say it. And there's another stat that said typically there's like a 10 to 15 year gap between somebody becoming a manager and their first manager training that they've ever received. And so it's kind of the nature of the beast and what businesses are doing. And we really want to prevent that from happening. And so when we're maximizing these connections, we need to train managers on, hey, we're working and winning together with our employees and our teams. And so let's start with performance. How are we doing? What are we doing to execute and win in the things that we've determined important for the role that person's in within the organization, right? People want to know what's important in their roles and they want to know how they're doing. And so let's start with that performance as we move forward. Now, once you know where you're at, now you can actually talk like a coach, right? Because you start to bring it into the other things in that connection point where you can say, all right, we're winning. And why are we winning? All right, well, hey, we're really executing these things really, really well. Like our behavioral traits are so aligned with what we need to be doing right now. We're winning. Or our skill set, we developed our skill set that we're doing really, really well. Or we're very centered in our values and we're connecting with people through the company values. And you're really shining right now in all those development pieces. I'm super excited about what you're doing and where we're going. Okay. Now, at the same time, some people are not having that success. And so you have to be able to be a coach. You have to be able to figure out what gaps are there for that person that might be leading to that performance issue, right? Edgar talked about, ask them. Maybe there is something personally happening that's leading to that. But sometimes there's a different part of that development that you have to figure out how you can tap in to maximize that person. The reality right now in this talent war, you're not going to have enough people. So the better you can develop your people and understand how to grow them and have those difficult conversations, have those development conversations to get them to high level performance, the better. You can't just give up on people in 60 days. You have to go on a journey to develop your workforce quickly and effectively. And it's going to start through that manager development and that connection that they're having with their employees on a consistent basis.
Yeah, these are high turnover times right now, right? And this is becoming much more of a critical conversation. And historically, starting from the top, executives don't always focus on the engagement data that people have and just the level of interaction that people are having with their managers and leaders. And to your statistic before, Ben, they're kind of entrusting that these leaders have it figured out and they know how to lead and they know, exactly the categories in which they need to focus on. It's just not the reality. And what happens are people will leave their boss, people will leave the role if there's, questions on how they can actually execute within that space. And that leads to a lot lower retention rates for people. And so the question before, and appreciate the questions, please keep them coming, but what are some ways to actually allocate more time? I do believe it does have to start from the top, and that you do create that safe space for people to invest in your people. And Ben, maybe you can answer this one too quickly, as a question came through from Michelle, is how do you systematically track check-ins in quarterly conversations without it being just a tremendous undertaking for a manager and leader?
Well, when we started on our journey, we were doing these things, but we were doing these things in Excel for the most part. And so what we did is we developed our framework for how to be a great coach. And we developed a web app that allows our managers on their cell phone, on their laptop, on their computer to get into that, have those conversations, have those role-based kind of coaching plans of what to talk about and videos on how to say it, right? Provide them with ongoing resources. So they can readily grow their skill set as a manager overnight, and they have a systematic way to track and communicate and keep that storyboard going with that employee. And we do think you need to have more of that in the moment storyboard because people, Gallup came out about 18 months ago, kind of front half of COVID, and said the annual review is dead. The new workforce wants more ongoing conversations. They want more consistent feedback. Businesses have to adapt to that style. And we 100% agree with them and track that and have that storyboard and provide that to your managers and employees to do it right.
Yeah. And what we were talking about earlier with engagement and retention, this brings up another topic for you, Edgar, of just the benefits of routine, getting into routine performance reviews versus the once a year dreaded review that so many organizations do.
Yeah. Well, it's a couple benefits with doing those performance reviews. The first one is connection. I mean, connection is extremely important. I'm going to tell you why it is because, my personal experience, playing the NFL for 7 years and being in great organizations and organizations that were not ran well, the connection was important because we know that adversity is going to hit us as a team. It's only a matter of time and when it's going to happen. And the connection that I had with my teammates, the more we got a chance to build relationships with each other, not just at work, but outside of work, it made it a lot more easier when adversity came. And I give you this about connection. I have been around a couple of players that's made tons of money. And even at the pinnacle of their life of making the millions and millions of dollars, one of their complaints was, I still feel like I'm not connected to my coach. Still feel like I have no connection to my coach, right? So the connection is extremely important because we know that adversity is going to hit our company. There's going to be situations that's going to happen. And the more we build relationships with each other, it can really help with getting through that adversity. The other one is the calibration, being able to be more intentional on those check-ins. And those check-ins can range from maybe 1 week. You may want to check in with them for 2 to 5 minutes, just something quick, hey, I'm just checking in with you, see if you got everything you need. I think sometimes when we look at check-ins, we look at it as it has to be 30 minutes or an hour. And that's not that doesn't always have to look at that. If I've done, 5 minutes one week and 10 minutes the next week, then, 10 after that, that's in the last 3 weeks, I've taken maybe 30 plus minutes to check in with this individual. So it starts to add up over time. So bit by bit, piece by piece, the small things is what it's what has the big impact. The other one is the collaboration. We go back to the goals and being able to set goals that we both can agree on, but also too, thinking about different opportunities to challenge them to grow. I mean, with a committed champion, we talked about a committed champion a couple of weeks ago. You want to find different ways for them to grow. I mean, when you do this, this keeps them engaged. This keeps them seeking the thrill of something new or something challenging. And the other one is a celebration. There's not one person that's walking this earth that does not want to be celebrated for what they do well. We like a pat on the back to say, hey, job well done. And this is critical when it comes to our employees, when it comes to ourselves. And one thing about this, when we celebrate, it lets people know that they're valued, that they're being noticed for the work that they're doing, and a job well done. So Ben, what's some other practical how-tos that we can maximize connection with our employees?
Yeah, a couple of things that come to mind, like when you really look at you're doing this at a championship level, when you're equipping your managers with enough information about their employees that they know how to connect with them. And, we're experts in behavioral analytics, and there's 17 different behavioral profiles that we focus on. And so motivating and coaching and developing each person's a little bit different. And so if you give that manager that resource of understanding how that person's wired, how would I naturally connect with that person? And then how do I apply that to the role that they're in and how I'm helping them be successful? That's when you're at a championship level. And for some people, they're not even close to starting that journey. And we believe in get on the ship and start that journey, and you'll get there quickly over time. But practically, like, you have to be able to create the space and the environment for your people where this becomes the norm, that we check in with our people, we talk strategy with them, we develop them. They're important to us. We believe in having a people first culture. And we're developing these people because it will drive performance, it will drive profitability, it will drive a healthy culture when we look at it through that lens. And you set that from the top down, and that really takes the cake when those practical communications keep coming from your leadership and you give them the space to do it. And I just want to throw this stat in here. This is something that I think we're proud as an organization. We're growing really fast. We hired 91 people last year, 91 people. We had, of those 91 people, we've lost 4. 3 others are not hitting the performance objectives of the role they're in. The rest are hired, onboarded, and hitting the performance expectations of the positions they're in. And we did that while promoting 22 managers. So create a space and an environment and a system that you can scale your business, because your manager level becomes your strength, and your employees really, really appreciate being a part of that people first culture.
It's a super powerful statistic, Ben, and it's obviously encouraging to hear. A lot of the questions that are continuing to come through seem to be related to the how. How does somebody do this consistently? And what, because I know there's so many organizations that are tracking things in 10 different systems or spreadsheets, and maybe a bit archaic. It makes it really hard for managers and leaders to consistently be able to do this and to track that information. And obviously that's a big piece of what we want to share with people today. So maybe you can speak a little bit on that a bit, Ben.
Yeah, I think there's a 2-step process for getting this going. First is we do believe you have to train your managers on how to communicate. What are the phrases, the things that are going to best connect with people? And so we focus on 8 key themes that are going to get that how to communicate, plus videos, because every manager is different. Some of our naturally born people that connect with people, some aren't. So you have to develop that holistic skill set in that manager. But then how they're actually doing it is you have to give them the things to focus on within each role. The biggest thing that I see missing once you have a good communicator, like you can have the greatest man, like everyone loves them. And some of those managers don't develop their people. They're just friends because you haven't created the space of what does the performance look like in that role and what are the key coaching things for that role, that those awesome conversations that manager employee enjoy having are still focused on things that are impacting their development, impacting the business and the team. And so it's connecting those two things, right? But there's kind of two types of managers: those that love about performance and are kind of really firm and they struggle to connect. Well, you got to train and develop the connection piece with that manager. And then there's the manager that everyone loves that's just a friend. And you got to give them the framework of how and what to talk about with performance and the skill set development that you have. And so it's both of those things. We believe so strongly in it that, we built that app to allow people to do it, fast and easy in the system and give them additional training, because it's something you need to house. You got to get it out of Excel. You got to get it out of, we don't like to do it in a payroll system. We like it to be our people focused area that we really dial in on as an organization.
This is the movement that so many organizations, they need to go into. It's people first, right? People are the lifeblood of everything that we do. And so it's really important to really highlight that this is for the manager, absolutely, but it's also for all the direct reports. It's not a tool to, put people under the microscope and micromanage. It's actually to create opportunities through communication, through transparency, and through objectivity, because we can lay these things out together and have mutual accountability on what actually needs to happen on a day-to-day and a week-to-week within those roles. And so a lot of people that we talk to that are our partners are saying, gosh, our people actually feel really engaged and inspired by this because they see a career path for themselves. And that's one of the biggest reasons why people leave, is they don't see a long-term career path for them within an organization. So having that roadmap for managers can really, really be helpful. The big thing too is that I know we only have a few minutes left here, and please keep the questions coming. We'll try to get everything answered as best as we can. If we can't answer it, we will make sure that we follow up with you individually and ensure that we connect and get those answered. But something that we do want to offer is for you to check out M4P, the M4P software platform that we have, that application, like Ben mentioned. You can try it for 90 days, absolutely no obligation there, but we would actually jump in and help you with this. So not only would you and the manager and your direct report, or we would have a full team that would want to complete this and be able to leverage this tool. You'd have us as consultants and experts in this place to help you coach, to train you on the methodology of this, and see if this could be something that is repeatable within your organization. And so that's something we're just super passionate about. And we want to be able to offer that to you. Edgar, Ben, I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
No, I would just add, the reason we do that is a lot of organizations want to get really good. They just don't know where to get started in that people journey and that performance journey. And so we want to start somewhere. Let's opportunity to find one team, impact that manager, that direct reports, and then take it and run, as many as you want. It's a web app, so you don't need to, be synced up with any systems. You can be doing this on their phone, et cetera. We can always do integrations to other things as needed as well. But we want to be able to do that. That's our CEO's mission. That's the people that work for us want to impact organizations and be innovative with people strategy. And so it starts with hiring people and then onboarding and coaching them to success.
And Mike, I would say, it's, what we do here is working along organizations to continue to give them a growth mindset. We always can look at ways to grow and taking different approaches on how we'll approach situations. So just having a growth mindset to look at things different, take different approaches. And typically when you do that, you get different results.
100% agree. It's so interesting. Some of the questions coming through of, does this become too compliancy? Is it repeatable for managers to do? And I think this is where you start small, right? Start small and make sure that you have feedback, just consistent real-time feedback that direct reports and managers alike are able to give. And you can even have it so that everything can be positive shout outs, or you could have it where it's constructive as well. But that consistency of being able to provide feedback that is tracked somewhere is really valuable. I know me as a manager, admittedly, I will remember the last 3 weeks of the performance and interactions I've had with my direct reports. It's nice to be able to look back and see all the feedback from all the different individuals that that person interacts with to truly see how that person is being received and what areas they need to grow in as well.
Mike, I see a couple of questions there too on the phrases and stuff. So those things are provided in our training that we do with that manager or your team, but we have videos. And so they're able to, when they access the M4P, go to that learning library and access how to have a difficult conversation and what disclaimer lines do you use to provide difficult conversations, or how do you coach your best player and what are things you need to be considering in those conversations, as you don't want to lose your A players. So we have a library of videos, and you also get a lot of that in the training time frame.
Yeah, the other questions coming through here, in terms of this conversation that we've been having so far, how do we access those templates, guides, videos? Is that going to be all through our learning library, or where does that come from, Ben?
So we put a link into a content library. So we have a lot of blogs and different write-ups on things that are kind of free access. And then a part of that pilot, any of those people can get all the learning videos as well. And so that's there. But we also built our learning library, so each one of our clients can insert their own material that they maybe have used in the past, so it can act like a learning management system on top of all things people related in that process. And our system, I mean, I guess acting like how it integrates with Teams and Outlook, it doesn't necessarily integrate with it from like a day-to-day use meaning, but it does notify and email all managers and people around different things that come through those coaching conversations. So there's notifications that will link up with Outlook in that process.
Great. Well, I think we've got through most of the questions at this point. Again, would love to partner together, for the 90 days and walk you through what this tool can look like with an individual manager. Think of a manager that would either be a great champion of this and really could use it, or even somebody that maybe needs some additional assistance in growth in there. And talking about, there's a gap between somebody who's been leading and managing and formal training, right? And so having that roadmap is so critical when it comes to our individuals in the workplace. So we'd love to partner with you on this and check it out. If there's any questions at any point, please let us know. I know after this webinar, everybody who's attended or at least signed up is going to get a recording, as well as the deck as well, in case there's additional questions. We'd love to connect. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day, and we appreciate you joining.
Mike, I wanted to throw one thing in if you haven't left is, our 90-day is focused on one team, so we can work on that during that pilot period. But if your organization is in a point where you really want a flood of positivity and some coaching, we will come in and execute a training session for your managers on what the 8 key themes of people first coaching, and do that live. Like I do this all the time. And those are always energizing conversations to get this culture going simultaneously to that one manager. No questions asked. This is important stuff for us. And we love to do that with organizations.
Excellent. Well, again, thanks everybody for joining the webinar today. If you want to check out the others that we had in this 4-part series, please let us know. We're happy to share that information. Otherwise, looking forward to partnering together. Have a good rest of the week. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.